Hello again, it's me, Kate Wiseman, author of Gangster School. I know it's back to front, sorry about that. Yesterday I read the first chapter to you, and today, believe it or not, I'm reading the second chapter, and hoping it's keeping you entertained, that it's making you think about writing and reading and drawing and all the things you could be doing while you're not able to go to school. You may remember, I hope, that Millie and Charlie had just been ambushed by the year 8s along with the rest of the year 7s, and they are in a bit of a sticky situation. Okay, so here goes, chapter 2. The triumphant year 8s prodded their captives on a twisted route through the trees. A couple of minutes later, they were lining them up against an old white wall. This must be the back of the main building, Millie muttered to Charlie. With what seemed like practiced efficiency, the year 8s split into two groups. The largest band stayed with their captives, looming over them and snarling at them to keep them intimidated. The rest set about relieving them of anything that looked expensive. Millie was at the end of the line. She raised her eyebrows as Charlie slipped his mobile into one sock, then hung on to his laptop bag for dear life as two ambushers tried to wrestle it from him. Some of the year 7s tried to dissuade them. One, a short, sturdy boy with freckles, tried reasoning with his captors. Now let's just stop and think about what you're doing here. Have you taken into account that this could easily go disastrously wrong? A much more successful approach would be to... Millie didn't waste her breath. She was scanning her surroundings with narrowed eyes. Newbies, grab your stuff and follow me, she yelled suddenly, shoving the nearest pair of year 8s back. Clutching her belongings, she ran. The other year 7s hesitated for a second, and then most of them, maybe 30, followed. Glancing over her shoulder, Millie saw Charlie frowning after her. Then he too took to his heels. The robbers stared blankly at each other before launching into a chase. A few stayed behind with the stragglers. The year 7s rounded a corner. Millie stopped, scanning the long wall in front of them. It was dotted with 5 identical doors. Each one was arched with corroded metal hinges and hefty doorknobs. For a second she calculated. She risked another quick look behind her to see whether the rest of the newbies were following. No one appeared. Shrugging, she set off again. She reached the door on the far left and shoved it hard. It gave a stud and creak, but refused to budge. Charlie, here, now, I need you. Millie threw the words behind her. He was there in a second, adding his shoulders to the force pitted against the door. It gave way with a long groan. They dashed inside and then stopped, temporarily blinded by the sudden darkness. They were in a gloomy corridor, ending in a dappled glass door. As Millie's eyes adjusted, she began to make out the long, dark tables and shelf-lined walls in the room beyond the door. Everything was distorted by the glass. An unmistakable chemical aroma seeped into the air. Great! Come on, Millie yelled. She shoved open the door and bundled the year 7s inside. Down the corridor, the outside door crashed open again. Year 8s streamed through. They too stopped for a second while their eyes adjusted. Millie scanned the room. Lining one side, there was a row of skeletons in order of size, ranging from a delicate bat to a sturdy rhino. The smallest ones were suspended from the ceiling. Along the back wall were jars of chemicals. Most of them were green or brown or blue, but on the highest shelf were a cluster of black ones with red grinning skulls pressed into the glass. Millie's eyes passed over them and onto a poster. They returned to it briefly to reread the title. Banish early bedtimes, drug your parents. She raised one eyebrow. Just along from the poster, ranks of yellow biohazard suits hung from their pegs like a dormant alien army. Once again, Millie's eyes moved on. Finally, she spotted something that might be helpful. Tucked away in a corner was a row of metal canisters on a high shelf. She sprinted over to them and craned onto tiptoe to read their labels. Charlie, come here, I'm too short. Read these to me. Charlie hesitated for a moment. The sound of their pursuers hurtling through the laboratory door seemed to jolt him into action. and in 2 seconds flat he was at Milly's slave. "What'd your last slave die of?" he said with a quick smile. He reached for the nearest canister. "Instant spray ice, for outdoor use only," he read out. "Could we run off and make a skid patch behind us?" Milly shook her head. "Can't risk it. Some of us would end up skidding on it too." He threw it down and reached for the next one. "Fake blood. Spray onto injury-free areas and groan loudly." "Useless." He tossed it to one side and grabbed another. "Temporary paralysis gas for use on dependables in criminal enterprises only. Hold your breath for 30 seconds after spraying." Milly punched the air. "Yes! Pass that to me." She shook the canister. "Oh, it's half empty. Is there any more?" "There's one more and it looks the same, but the label's gone. Could be anything." "Cross your fingers that it is the same. Everyone hold your breath. Keep together. Don't breathe till we're outside." Milly aimed the unlabelled canister at the Year 8s, who were almost within grabbing distance. She took a step back and punched down on the nozzle. A hissing purple cloud enveloped the ambushers. For a second there was a silence, and then the gang of muggers began to laugh. They guffawed and hooted. They clutched at tables or each other to stop themselves from collapsing. Laughing gas, that won't stop them for long. She tossed the canister to one side. She grabbed the half-empty one, gave it a quick shake, and squirted the chortling Year 8s with yellow vapour. Instantly they froze, caught in mid-hoot. It was a disturbing sight, as if the victims of the Pompeii volcano were delighted at their grisly fate. "Wish there was a time to take a few photos to post on Crimbook, but we need air," Milly gasped as she hustled the bulgy-eyed Year 7s back into the clean sunshine. "Whew, that was great, Milly." Charlie was clutching his knees, gulping down air. "You're new too, aren't you? How do you know where to find that science lab?" Milly shrugged. "I had a good look at the map of the school this morning, the one in the prospectus. This is Blackguards. Weird stuff happens. You need to be ready for it." She smiled up into his brown eyes. Miss Martinet returned to find most of the new Blackguardians where she had left them, panting and dishevelled. She threw them a knowing look. "Well done for fighting off the Year 8s. I assume your less successful classmates have been released by now. They'll be waiting for us by the main door." She shepherded them onwards. "Don't even think about retaliation, by the way," she warned. "There's a strict honour among thieves policy at Blackguards. We allow the Year 8 ambush because it's a centuries-old tradition, but that's as far as it goes. Absolutely no other criminal activities are permitted against fellow pupils." She gave the Year 7s, a steely-eyed glare. "Understood?" The Newberrys nodded feverishly. "Excellent. Now follow me," she purred.